Legends of Tomorrow Season 4. This is the full spoiler review. I have a review on my blog, soundedbetterInMyHead.com. Does have a few small spoilers, but I did try to restrain myself, so this one, anything goes. I actually gave this season a 3 out of 5. It had its fair share of issues, but I think it's really found its groove just overall. They've been relying more and more on the comedy, every season to the point the show's it has its action still, but it's become a superhero comedy, which I think works. It helps it stand out from the other shows. But the show also still has a lot of heart. Like the characters feel like a family. I mean, they're basically kind of stuck together in the ship all the time, and I think their relationships are a little bit tighter than even some of the Arrow stuff or the Flash stuff. One of the things I hated last season was how incompetent the team typically was. They made a lot of big mistakes, and they were stupid mistakes. And for as long as these guys have been doing what they've been doing, it just didn't seem right they were doing that. It was just to get a laugh. And I think they cut down on that significantly this season. And I think it helped that the joke wasn't on them as much as it used to be. And they still make mistakes, but it's not as blatant as it used to be. This season's plot is pretty uneven. They start off that they're tracking mystical creatures, and they do that for a while, and then it transitions over to the whole Neuron plot, and in the end they try to tie it together, and it doesn't quite connect. The magical creature thing, there's some fun stuff early on, just with a twist. You got basically an evil unicorn and basically an evil fairy godmother and stuff like that. And later on, we start seeing stupid stuff like just some random ogre or some random mummy. They're just kind of in the background. I don't even know if you consider those magical creatures anymore. They're just kind of generic monsters. And even then, even the most ruthless of them that are murderers, they get to a point where they're just misunderstood, and it just kind of takes away from what they set up in the earlier season. The Neuron stuff is kind of scary at first in the background. John's terrified of him, so you think he's got to be a bad dude. And then when we do finally see him, he's taking the face of John's former boyfriend Desmond, which is a good twist. It's got that big connection to John. And then basically once they find out, they get him out of there. He ends up in Ray, and he just doesn't bring any kind of... Ray's not scary, even with Neuron in him. I know it's supposed to be a restrained evil performance, going by what Desmond did, but it just feels like it's basically still Ray for the most part. He occasionally hits some better notes, but... And then his evil plan is just kind of, tricking people to give up their souls. It was a decent plan, and then for some reason he flips it for really no good reason, and tries to take over or he tries to bring hell on Earth, which he should have led with that. The whole soul thing seemed almost pointless, so I don't even know why he bothered doing that when the hell on the Earth was the ultimate goal. As far as the characters this season, like I mentioned already, John Constantine is a full-on part of the show. I didn't think he actually blended in too well. I liked his previous appearances. I think he worked good in a small dose. He just doesn't quite feel like he fits in with the team. And he does his little random silly magic thing. He kind of looks like he says something to his hand and he casts a spell, and I don't know, it just kind of seems out of place even when they are fighting magical creatures. Like I said, his story with Desmond was solid, and then after that he just, I don't know, it just didn't seem like they had anything that great for him to do. Nora Dark became a major character this season. Took her a long time to integrate her into the show. She was kind of in the background, then she was locked up, and then finally, more than halfway through, she joins the team, and she basically doubles up with Constantine doing. She's also just casting magic spells. It's just hers a little bit more. She's not saying cool spells and doing stuff. She's just got magical abilities, and she's kind of just doing it. I don't know how it's going to work out. She basically ended as a fairy godmother. I don't know if she still is, or they just kind of washed that away at the end. I don't really care for that twist of her being bound to Gary or somebody, but yeah, it could work. I guess maybe to nerf her a little bit because they did make her fairly powerful. They also added Mona as a character. I really dug her at first. She was real likable and kind of laid back and a little quirky. And then as she got added to the show full on, she was a little bit annoying. I thought her love story with the Konami, the werewolf, whatever you want to call it, was just didn't work at all. He was just this kind of random werewolf character that she's in love with. Got a little bit better later on as they try to flesh him out a little bit, but he just really doesn't talk, and he was just basically still a beast. Then the twist that she becomes a werewolf type character on her own was alright at first, and then they switched it. It was basically like a Killer Frost, where it's an alternate personalities, and that's Wolfie, and she basically wolfs out, and she's supposedly not quite Mona anymore. So it's like a cross between Killer Frost and the Hulk. And just the effects looked okay as far as Wolfie looked. Just this big bruiser with a, enhanced voice, and didn't really never do much with her. She just kind of would show up, smack some people around, and that was kind of really about it. Technically it's a new character, but we have Charlie, who's basically the same actress that played Amaya. Amaya was fairly boring. She was really reserved. Her powers were okay. She was just basically the love interest for Nate, was her biggest thing. But Charlie is just kind of off the chain. She's funny. She's kind of a hard ass. She just kind of says whatever. Like, she don't really give a shit. And she had this kind of punk rock vibe. And it just really worked for the character. It really brought something fresh to the show. I liked her look. Unfortunately, she had something. Her most interesting thing was she was a shapeshifter, but they took her powers away right off the bat. She eventually does kind of get them back, but not enough to really be like that useful. So I don't know. If she could have at least some of her powers and have that attitude, she'd be like a really awesome character. And of course, we do have to sandwich in another love story with Nate. This time it's Nate and Zari. Seemed a little forced, but I think they had pretty good chemistry, so it seemed to work. That's why I think the twist was pretty good at the end, that with the new timeline, she never joined the Legends, and instead her brother did. So now Nate's lost a girlfriend 2 seasons in a row, but apparently this time he doesn't remember it. So we'll see. It wasn't like a grand send-off. I can't imagine her being gone permanently. She was a pretty solid character. She really grew on me a lot since last season. There's not a ton else to say about the basics. I'm going to dive into some notes and see if anything jumps out at me. The show was very self-aware this season, pretty much almost breaking the fourth wall. I think it worked out pretty good. A lot of jokes about them skipping out on the crossover. I thought Nate's appearance was going to be a one-off. Turns out his father would end up being like a major part of the show. Didn't really care for it at first. Got a little more excited when I found out he used to play Biff on Back to the Future. But its character's kind of all over the place. Kind of a thorn in their side, and then almost a villain, and then back to being on their team, and then they just killed him off. It was just a father-son arc for Nate. It was okay. It wasn't really making or breaking the show. Kind of a random nitpick, but there was a scene where Constantine went back into that time. It was going to kick his dad in the balls so hard that he couldn't have a kid, and Constantine wouldn't be born. But every time he tried, there was like a weird loop because he couldn't go back. If he wasn't born, then he couldn't go back in time and kick his dad in the balls. But there's been so many times that the show's gone back in time and done stuff that could have made it so they were never born, and it was no problem. There was a lot of cute moments with Sarah and Ava until they had to, of course, have their big lovers quarrel and break up for a while and then get back together. But a lot of their scenes were really nice. There's a really sweet relationship they had with each other. I was actually pretty surprised they went full on with Constantine being bisexual. It was hinted at in the past, but they flat on, he met a man and he fell in love with him, and it was a major linchpin of this, this season. And it's just something, like I said, something that's been with the character since his comic book appearances. So I'm glad that they didn't shy away from something controversial because it is true to the character. It's not that he just decided he's gay now or bisexual. It's classic Constantine. And then of course that led to since they sat out the time, and then since they sat out the crossover, they got their own little funky show where we got different realities of different team members getting killed and different variations. Some of them, a lot of them didn't really make any sense. The whole thing where Ray suddenly becomes a ruthless killer along the rest of the guys, just never, that would never happen as far as his character is concerned. But it still made a good bit, and the Sirens of Space Time and all of just Zari being a cat. There was so many pretty damn funny things in there. The team turning into puppets. It was just probably one of their funniest episodes that they've done. And again, it just comes down to Constantine biting the bullet, going back and letting his boyfriend eventually get taken to hell. So it was also a moving storyline. And they finally gave Charlie the motivation to fully integrate in the team instead of always wanting to just get out of there. Also funny, there's a lot of good raunchy jokes about just go ahead and jump this person's bones and go ahead and just hook up with that person. And this is coming from the women. This isn't the guys pushing guys to like make a move. These are girls saying, yeah, go for it. Go ahead and hook up. And they also got, again, pretty raunchy with thanks to the magical dust, everybody was at least dreaming about hooking up. I mean, Zari had a dream about having a threesome. I guess it was a dream about Ray hooking up with Nora. I don't think they really actually hooked up, but it was just funny. They just kind of took a good solid PG-13 with their sescapades there. And then of course, since it's Legends, why not? They just go to like a big Bollywood musical, which kind of worked. I like the costumes. I like the set design. The songs, were based on stuff that happened on the show. Zari looked freaking awesome in her outfit. Kind of made sense that Gary had a brief heel turn. I mean, they kind of treat him like shit all season, and it's still pretty fucking funny and creepy that his lost nipple came back as evil and kind of possessed him a little bit and allowed him to mind control the entire Time Bureau until it got bitten off by a werewolf. Season finale had some fun moments. I thought the CGI on the dragon was pretty crappy, especially the baby dragon. Just looked like a bad How to Train Your Dragon render. Don't know what happened to the dragon at the end. I don't know if it really makes a big difference. I was kind of surprised that the whole plot to have the amusement park to make people like monsters seemed kind of flimsy, and it basically failed, which was kind of cool. I thought the big song at the end to save Nate was really corny, but the last moment with him and his father, I think, kind of nailed it with the emotional beat. It's funny as hell seeing Sarah, Gary, and Nate dressed up as Supergirl, Flash, and Green Arrow. Half of them look good in the costume at least. Even like little things like were funny. The monitor's there, but he's kind of just chilling and eating popcorn, watching. The Vando Savage cameo was funny. All the stuff in Hell was stupid. It just was like a slummy city at night. It wasn't like, it barely ever looked like it was supposed to be like this different realm. And the soul coins just look like coins with people's names on them. Not sure if you know about Astra apparently releasing some of the most evil people back. I don't know. With time travel, it's not that big of a deal. You can just go back and grab Genghis Khan out of time. I don't know why it releases soul unless they're possessing people. I don't know what the plan is there. That's be a story for next season. Don't really got a ton else to talk about in the show. Like I said, just it settled pretty solid into the groove of a comedy superhero show, but it still got its heart for its characters, and it gets a bit raunchier than some of the other shows. It pokes fun at itself, very self-aware. Like I said, I got other reviews on my blog, soundedbettermyhead.com. I got my comic strip. If you want to check those out, go for it. Other than that, thanks for watching.